Mobile gaming as a format has had a lot more to offer in recent years, as evidenced by the growing use of open worlds. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on GameRanks, the best open world games for iOS and Android. Number 25, a game called Interstellar Pilot, which is even more open than an open world. It is an open universe. It's not a massively multiplayer game, it is a single player game, but honestly I think that actually works out well. Essentially, it balances the ideas of an economic simulation with a much more action-oriented game, and although the game sees constant development, it's already pretty darn good. Interstellar Pilot is free on both iOS and Android, give it a shot. And at number 24, Vampire's Fall Origins is a 2D open-world RPG with turn-based tactical combat. The game takes place mainly in a top-down view, and you play a recruit in a militia that is intended to protect the village of Vampire. Now this is a much more traditional RPG than you typically see on the phone, and I think that's great. Vampire's Fall Origins is out on both iOS and Android now. Coming in at number 23, Durango Wildlands is a dinosaur catching and training RPG of the massively multiplayer variety. The game takes place in a land of dinosaurs, of course. Kinda need those in order to do a dinosaur catching and training MMORPG. But the intent is to tame dinosaurs, face down various clan mechanics, and engage in PvP. It's actually really good. It just feels like something a bit refreshing, because it's got some of the trappings of a mobile RPG and some of the more traditional MMO type stuff, and I think really manages to be its own game. Durango Wildlands is out on both iOS and Android. Number 22, Neo Scavenger, a post-apocalyptic survival game that takes place on a hexagonal isometric map in near-future post-apocalyptic Michigan. It is a turn-based game, making it very easy to save and come back whenever. There's no XP, the purpose is specifically skill-based. You learn how to play better, you learn how to scavenge new items, and Cyberpunk Detroit. The gameplay there isn't quite the same thing as the rest of the game. It's kind of a refuge area that allows you to do things that you can't do out in the wild, get surgery and the like. This is a game that has a lot going on, has a unique look to it, and actually serves to be something different that is fun. Neo Scavenger is out on iOS and Android now. I sure enjoyed it. Number 21. It's called OpenMW, which MW means Morrowind, meaning yes, you can install Morrowind on your phone. Now, it's a little bit complex, and it's only for Android, but it's a process that involves installing OpenMW as well as copying the data files from a legitimate copy of Morrowind purchasable from Bethesda.net. Now, you should know what an Elder Scrolls game is now. Morrowind is Elder Scrolls 3. It's a great game, and having it on your Android is actually pretty great. Coming in at number 20, Crashlands, which is an action RPG slash crafting game that has a story, but the ultimate goal really is to just collect tons of resources and craft things. Now that description will never do it justice. This is a game that is so fun to play. And not just because it's a crafting game, not just because it's an action RPG. Pretty much every aspect of this game is super fun, really intuitive, and implements touchscreen controls in such a way that they feel borderline natural, which is really, a huge accomplishment. Crashlands is available on iOS and Android for $6.99. You can also get it on Steam, and the save files are cross-platform, so yeah, that's good. Give this one a shot. It's a really good game. Number 19 is Terraria, which somebody who may be a little more cynical might call it 2D Minecraft, but Terraria is obviously more than that. It's somewhere between if you combined Minecraft and Metroid. I'm far from the first person to describe it as such, but I think it's a little more accurate than just calling it 2D Minecraft. If you've never played Terraria, yeah, you explore like in Metroid, take on enemies, and you build and craft and create like in Minecraft. It's 2D, it's a side scroller, and it's fun as hell. Terraria is available on iOS and Android now. If you haven't played it, you should. It's really just a great game. Number 18 is Retro City Rampage, which, if you're interested in top-down 2D, kind of a synthesis of the old school actual 2D Grand Theft Auto and new school Grand Theft Auto type ideas, well, hey, it's Retro City Rampage. This is a game that manages to be an arcade game, an open world game, something with depth, as well as something that on the surface seems very shallow. This is exactly what it should be. I love Retro City Rampage, it's such a fantastic game. It's really worth your time, and it's out on iOS and Android now. Number 17. Titan Quest, an action RPG from the PC, originally released in 2006, brings you that full 2006 hack-and-slash experience to the phone. Now, just for reference, Titan Quest is a huge game. It's got 30 different character classes, 80 different enemies, over 1,200 items to find, and the playtime averages over 60 hours. Now, it's not going to absolutely blow your mind in any real way. It doesn't bring a lot new to the table, but it is also a game from 2006, and it's a darn good one. Titan Quest is out on iOS and Android now. At number 16, Monster Hunter Stories, a JRPG, like fully standard JRPG version of Monster Hunter that was designed to sort of reach a younger demographic that the actual full-blown Monster Hunter games don't, but in the process made a game that's actually very, very charming and fun. Don't let the fact that it was designed for kids keep you away from Monster Hunter Stories. It's a JRPG, and if you like JRPGs, it's a good one. Keeping in mind there aren't a lot of actually really good ones based around hunting monsters. I know there are a lot of them, but the really good ones definitely stand out. Is it as good as Pokemon? But it's definitely worth the time. It does have a bit of a steep price. It comes in at $19.99, but I mean Monster Hunter Stories is actually a really fun, well-made JRPG, and it's out on iOS and Android now. And coming in at number 15, all of the GTA games. I mean, obviously, the more beefy ones aren't on there, but you want Grand Theft Auto 3, Vice City, Chinatown Wars, or San Andreas, it's all on mobile, and these are just fantastic games. In every way, they've done a great job porting every one of them. They work very well. I mean, as well as they can on touch controls. And it's Grand Theft Auto. These are the full versions of these Grand Theft Auto games. There's no reason not to have them. It's so nice to be able to just go, hey, I'm gonna turn on Grand Theft Auto 3, and then pull out your phone and just do it. I have a bit of a weird attachment to Grand Theft Auto 3 personally, and I love just being able to play it whenever I want. All of them are out for various prices on iOS and Android. It's Grand Theft Auto, what else do you want me to say? Coming in at number 14, Oddworld Stranger's Wrath. Oddworld is basically a combination of first-person and third-person, platforming, and shooting. There are a lot of different things that you end up having to do in this game, from normal, ranged first-person shooting, to much more pure platforming, to melee combat, to... I mean, this game is very diverse in its approach to what the game is, and in this case, that worked very well. I know that there are games that kind of don't benefit from being mega-focused as to what they are, but this is one of those that does. It's also an Oddworld title, meaning it is filled with that sort of trademark Oddworld social satire. And while I don't know that I'd rank it as the best Oddworld game, Oddworld games I'd rank above most other games, so considering it's $2.99, I would recommend you pick it up because it's out on iOS and Android now. Coming in at number 13 is The Quest, which is an old school grid-based open world game with turn-based combat, and here in its HD glory, it shines. It's a game that had the benefit of being remade recently on the PC, as well as Mac, and the new high-resolution art assets were ported over to the iOS and Android versions of the game, and it's really just a great-looking game. I mean, for what it is, it's not like going to give you this AAA experience on your phone or anything like that, like some games will claim. But as somebody who likes the original game, you're certainly going to be happy with how it looks on phones now. Now again, this isn't like a new game by any stretch, so it's basically your expectation for a grid-based, turn-based, open-world RPG is probably exactly correct here, but this is one of the games that does it probably among the best. The Quest is out on iOS and Android now. It's $7.99. Number 12 is AXE Alliance vs. Empire, an open-world fantasy RPG where two large factions are fighting each other, and I'm gonna be honest, the story pretty much doesn't matter in this game. It's an MMORPG that plays on phones that is very smooth, very polished, and the combat is really satisfying. There's large-scale PvP battles of up to 150 people in this game, with lots of raids and the typical multiplayer trappings. It also has a little bit more personality than you might expect in the character designs, and I like that. AXE Alliance vs. Empire is out on iOS and Android now. If you're looking for an MMORPG, at least give this one a shot. Number 11 is Neroth, a 3D open-world fantasy action RPG that will remind you of, let's say, an Elder Scrolls game if they were what they are now but came out on the Dreamcast. It has fairly primitive graphics, but don't let that stop you. It's actually a really great RPG, and it will definitely remind you of Elder Scrolls games in a lot of ways. It's not super long, it's a 15-hour game, but I'm gonna go ahead and say that's kind of maybe not the worst thing considering it's mobile. Narath is out on both iOS and Android now. It's free, so what do you have to lose by giving it a shot? Number 10 is Exiled Kingdoms RPG, a top-down isometric action RPG that probably isn't going to dazzle you with its graphics. However, if you're looking for a game along the lines of a Diablo before they decided to start pushing mobile mechanics into it for no reason, ironically, this mobile game is exactly where to look. Now, this one I would call basically a hardcore game. It's pretty harsh. It doesn't play around at all, but that's exactly what it's going for. And although some of the graphics are very primitive, if you're down for some type of Diablo style stuff, this is basically the place you need to go. It's a great game. It is not a forgiving game, though. Beyond its harshness, it actually does do a very good job of developing an atmosphere, and I think that that's also worth mentioning. Exiled Kingdoms RPG, I would say I highly recommend. It's out on iOS and Android now. Coming in at number 9, Mad Out 2 Big City Online is very much a Grand Theft Auto Online styled game. There can be up to 100 players on a map, and you're doing basically all of the things you would expect in a Grand Theft Auto game. Now keep in mind, as of right now, it's a little bit limited in certain respects. It is cars only. We're not seeing other types of vehicles yet. I do have to assume that's something that's probably going to happen over time, because when you play this game for more than a minute, you know exactly what it's trying to do, and that's fulfill the Grand Theft Auto Online experience on mobile. And for the most part, I would say it works. Mad Out 2 Big City Online is out on iOS and Android now. Coming in at number 8, Off the Road OTR Open World Driving basically tells you everything about the game in the title, and that's not necessarily a bad thing because the main thing in this game is obviously driving off-road. There are challenges, there's checkpoint hunts, there's find and retrieve missions, that type of stuff, but it's mainly a simulation that is dedicated to off-road driving with large vehicles. It's not just that, there's also other mechanics at play. You can use a helicopter, you can drive a boat. Obviously, those things aren't on the road, guys. And over time, you upgrade your car, and that brings you to new areas. It's a fun game. I really like it. It's very hyper-specific as to what is enjoyable about it, but sometimes that's great. Off the Road OTR Open World Driving is out on iOS and Android now. Now I'm going to kind of group number 7 and 6 because they're both games from the same series and are very similar in that respect. These are very much games of the Grand Theft Auto DNA. They do reside somewhere between Grand Theft Auto and Saints Row, so keep that in mind. I wouldn't put it fully in either direction for either of these. The first of them is number 7, which is Gangstar New Orleans. And in every way, it's basically, yes, Grand Theft Auto in New Orleans, and not quite as slick, not quite as well made as Grand Theft Auto. It's a little clunky, but it's certainly worth playing. The same goes for number 6, which is Gangstar Vegas, World of Crime, which I'm gonna go ahead and say pretty much the same things about. These games were designed specifically for mobile to act as Grand Theft Auto in the mobile ecosystem, and while Rockstar actually has managed to do that themselves, that somebody else has attempted it and it's not a total disaster is a good thing. And not only is it not a total disaster, it's enjoyable. Gangstar Vegas obviously takes place in Las Vegas, and both Gangstar New Orleans and Gangstar Vegas are available on iOS and Android. Number 5 is Don't Starve Pocket Edition. Don't Starve is a fairly harsh survival game with a very unique art style and a very specific sort of scientific magic-oriented take on wilderness survival. There's a lot of crafting, a lot of resource gathering, and it doesn't go too far in any direction that makes you feel like you're stuck. It's a game that moves along, and I think that that's a blessing as far as this type of game. It knows what it wants to be, and it does it very well. Don't Starve Pocket Edition is $4.99 and it's out on iOS and Android now. Number 4 is Portal Knights, a game that basically does its best to give you Minecraft and questing at once. It does the job too. It's a co-op 3D sandbox action RPG if you want to lay that out, and in a lot of ways it's kind of what a lot of people wanted out of Minecraft. A lot of people tried to make this kind of game, and this is, I think, the one that did it best. because you get your questing and you also get your creative mode. It's a pretty fun, engaging game, and it's out on iOS and Android now for $4.99.
And coming in at number 3 is Minecraft.
Now, I'm obviously talking about Minecraft here, so it's Minecraft. Number 2 is Life After, a survival game very much oriented around action, as well as home and base building in a post-apocalyptic, definitely not zombies, but yeah, they're zombies, kind of Fortnite single-player oriented type game. Don't let the fact that on the surface it does resemble Fortnite single player cause you to prejudge the game. It does this very well, and it's a lot of fun. Life After is out on iOS and Android now. And finally, number 1 is Stardew Valley. Stardew Valley is basically if you added some developments in gaming that came after Minecraft into Harvest Moon, and it is wonderful. It's basically a much more open version of Harvest Moon. The somewhat of a farm simulator and somewhat of much more than that. There's so much to do in this game. You can grow things, you can build things, you can craft things, you can go underground and fight monsters. Stardew Valley is just an all-around great game. When they ported it to iOS and Android, it was one of those, of course, thank you for doing this moments. It is, of course, out on iOS and Android now, and I'd highly recommend it. That's all for today. What open world games are you playing on mobile? Leave us a comment, let us know what you think, and if you like this video, please click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week, and the best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription. So click subscribe, and don't forget to click the notification bell. As always, thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at FalconHero. We'll see you next time, right here on GameRanks.